Actually where the tragedy ended earlier this evening around 4 p.m. That's where SPD responded to what was a crash incident. But the whole thing actually started on Attaway Street with what was supposed to be a wellness check. The suspect's mother was supposed to be checking in on him, but before police could arrive, they said shots were fired. They also do believe that his mother was shot at and struck. They then got into a car, which led to a car chase down on Linwood Avenue. You can see here just the active scene of a bunch of units here. I can confirm that we did also see a coroner's van earlier this evening. Police confirmed that 4 people were shot. One of those 4 is now dead. Along the way, when they made it to Linwood Avenue in that car chase, that's the suspect chasing his mother in a car with 2 other people. Other people, bystanders, police call them, were involved in separate car wrecks along Linwood Avenue. One of them happened not far behind me where you just saw me standing a few minutes ago. And even further down, police say that's where a deceased individual is there. They're waiting to identify that individual. We still don't have a name. We're told that they're waiting to contact first of kin. That's how these things typically work before we can get the details of that individual with respect to the family.
Imagine you're driving home on what feels like an ordinary afternoon. Then out of nowhere, you hear gunshots. You glance into your rearview mirror and see a terrifying scene unfolding. A man is chasing a young woman in another car, firing bullet after bullet into her vehicle. She swerves desperately, doing everything she can to escape, but within seconds, she loses control and crashes head-on into an innocent driver who has no idea what's happening. Before anyone can even process the horror, the gunman allegedly steps out of his vehicle and starts shooting again. People run in every direction. Drivers abandon their cars. Panic spreads through the streets as sirens race toward the scene. In just a matter of minutes, 2 people are dead, several others are injured, and an ordinary afternoon has turned into a nightmare. But perhaps the most chilling part of this entire case is that, even today, investigators still haven't revealed exactly what sparked this deadly rampage. Before we get into today's case, make sure you like this video, subscribe to Case Watch, and click the bell icon so you never miss our latest true crime investigations. This case takes us to Shreveport, Louisiana, where what investigators say began as a domestic-related incident quickly turned into one of the city's most shocking acts of public violence. July 16, 2026, started like any other summer day. Families were going about their routines, people were heading to work, and drivers filled the streets without the slightest idea that within a few minutes, multiple lives would be changed forever. Shreveport is one of Louisiana's largest cities. It's known for its riverfront, entertainment, and close-knit neighborhoods where people often know their neighbors by name. But like many cities across America, it has also experienced its share of violent crime. Even so, residents would later say this incident stood out because it wasn't confined to one house or one argument. According to police, the violence spilled into public streets, placing innocent people directly in harm's way. By the end of the incident, 22-year-old Imunique Williams had lost her life. 57-year-old Chuckie Brooks, a man who police say had no connection to the original dispute, would later die from injuries suffered during a devastating crash. Several other people were injured, including the suspect's own mother. As detectives began collecting evidence, one major question immediately emerged. Why did this happen? Even now, investigators have not publicly identified a motive. Whenever we cover cases like this on Case Watch, I always encourage everyone to separate confirmed facts from online rumors. This case has generated a lot of speculation, but today we're focusing only on what investigators have officially released because those facts tell a story that's already heartbreaking enough. Let's begin with Imunique Williams. Imunique Williams was just 22 years old, but to the people who loved her, she was so much more than a name in a police report. She was a daughter, a mother of 2 young children, and a young woman who was working hard to build a better future for her family. She was also known for doing hair, a skill that allowed her to connect with people while earning a living doing something she enjoyed. Like so many young mothers, Imunique had responsibilities, dreams, and 2 little children who depended on her. No one could have imagined that what began as an ordinary day would end with her never returning home to them. In an instant, 2 children were left to grow up without their mother, and a family was forced to face an unimaginable loss. Friends and loved ones have remembered Imunique as a young woman whose life ended far too soon. While her family has largely chosen to grieve privately, the pain left behind has been felt throughout the community. Behind every headline and every court document is a real family trying to cope with the loss of someone they loved, and two children who will forever carry the weight of that loss. As of this recording, her mother has not made a verified public statement, and investigators have not released many details about Imunique beyond confirming her identity and her role in the events of that day. Police have described her only as a female acquaintance of Thomas Lemons. That description has led to countless questions. Were they close friends? Were they dating? Did they simply know each other? The truth is, investigators haven't answered those questions publicly. Many rumors have circulated online, but none of them have been confirmed by law enforcement. Until more evidence is released, it's important not to present speculation as fact. The second victim in this case was 57-year-old Chuckie Brooks. Chuckie's story is especially heartbreaking because, according to investigators, he had absolutely nothing to do with the conflict that unfolded earlier that day. He wasn't at the residence where the shooting allegedly began. He wasn't involved in an argument. He wasn't connected to either Imunique Williams or Thomas Lemons. He was simply driving. Think about that for a moment. How many times have you driven through an intersection without giving it a second thought? Every day, we trust that everyone else on the road is simply trying to reach their destination safely. Chuckie Brooks likely believed the same thing that afternoon. Instead, investigators say he unknowingly crossed paths with a tragedy that would cost him his life. Cases like this remind us that violence often extends far beyond the people directly involved. Sometimes innocent strangers become victims simply because they happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Now let's talk about the man accused of causing this tragedy. Police identified the suspect as 23-year-old Thomas Lemons. Authorities have released very little information about his background. There has been no detailed explanation of his life before the incident, no confirmed history of conflict involving Imunique Williams, and no official statement explaining what investigators believe motivated his alleged actions. That lack of information has only made this case more frustrating for many people following it. Normally, as investigations move forward, more details begin to emerge about a suspect's past. In this case, however, investigators have remained careful about what they've shared, likely because the investigation is still active. Another important person in this story is Thomas Lemons' mother. According to police, she was the first person shot that afternoon. Investigators say she had gone to check on her son. Exactly why she went there has not been publicly explained. Did she receive a phone call? Was she concerned about him? Was it simply a routine visit? Those questions remain unanswered. What authorities have confirmed is that she survived the shooting. That means she could eventually become one of the most important witnesses if this case goes to trial. Her testimony may help explain what happened inside the residence before the violence spilled into the streets. According to investigators, after Lemons allegedly shot his mother, events unfolded with incredible speed. Police say Imunique Williams got into her vehicle and drove away. Exactly why she left at that moment has never been publicly explained. Some people have claimed online that she was trying to help someone escape, while others believe she was simply trying to save herself. The truth is, investigators have confirmed neither. All we know is that she left the residence. Unfortunately, according to police, she wasn't able to get away. Investigators allege that Thomas Lemons got into his own vehicle and began following her. Just imagine how terrifying those moments must have been. You're behind the wheel. Your heart is racing. You know someone is coming after you. You don't know if help is nearby. You don't know if you'll make it to safety. Then, according to investigators, the gunfire began. Police allege that Lemons repeatedly fired at Imunique's moving vehicle while chasing her through the streets of Shreveport. Witnesses later reported hearing multiple gunshots echo through the neighborhood. Imagine looking out your front window and seeing vehicles speeding past while gunfire erupts in broad daylight. Imagine standing at a nearby business and suddenly realizing bullets are flying through the area. According to investigators, several rounds struck Imunique's vehicle during the pursuit. Despite everything happening around her, she continued driving, trying to escape. But only moments later, tragedy struck. Investigators believe she lost control of her vehicle. Her car crossed into oncoming traffic, and within seconds, it slammed into another vehicle being driven by Chuckie Brooks. The collision was devastating. Emergency responders rushed toward the scene as witnesses desperately called 911. Police say Imunique Williams died from the gunshot wounds she sustained during the pursuit. Chuckie Brooks suffered catastrophic injuries in the crash. He was transported to the hospital, where doctors fought to save his life, but despite their efforts, he later died. At that point, what had started as an alleged domestic-related shooting had already claimed 2 lives. But according to investigators, the nightmare wasn't over. In fact, police say the most terrifying moments were still unfolding. Community. According to investigators, the violence didn't end when the 2 vehicles collided. Police allege that after the crash, Thomas Lemons got out of his vehicle instead of leaving the scene. Imagine witnessing that moment. You've just heard a violent collision. Smoke is rising from the damaged vehicles. People are screaming. Some are calling 911. Others are running toward the wreckage, hoping they can help. Then, according to police, more gunshots ring out. Investigators allege that Lemons continued firing at people in the area, including passing motorists and others who happened to be nearby. What had already become a deadly crash was now an active shooting scene, forcing everyone in the area to think about one thing and one thing only: survival. For the people who witnessed everything unfold, those few minutes must have felt like an eternity. No one knew where the shots were coming from. No one knew whether there was more than one shooter. No one knew who might become the next victim. According to investigators, several additional people were struck by gunfire but survived. Among those wounded was Lemon's own mother, who had reportedly been shot earlier when the incident first began. As terrified witnesses called 911, police officers rushed toward the scene. When officers arrived, they encountered a situation unlike an ordinary crime scene. There were damaged vehicles scattered across the roadway. Victims needed immediate medical attention. Witnesses were pointing in different directions, trying to explain what they had just seen. Emergency medical crews began treating the injured while officers focused on securing the area and stopping any further violence. Police were able to take Thomas Lemons into custody at the scene. According to investigators, he was arrested without further loss of life. Once the immediate danger had passed, detectives began what would become a lengthy investigation. The first priority was preserving the crime scene. Officers closed nearby roads to prevent contamination of evidence. Crime scene investigators carefully photographed the damaged vehicles, documented the position of each piece of evidence, and marked locations where shell casings had been recovered. Every bullet casing mattered. Every damaged vehicle mattered. Every witness statement mattered. Because the violence stretched across multiple locations, investigators couldn't treat this as a single crime scene. They had to reconstruct everything from the moment police say Lemon's mother was shot until the final shots were fired after the crash. Detectives interviewed witnesses who had seen different parts of the incident. Some saw the shooting near the residence. Others witnessed the vehicle pursuit. Some only saw the crash itself. Others described hearing gunfire after the collision. Each account represented only one piece of a much larger puzzle. Investigators also examined the 2 heavily damaged vehicles. The condition of Imunique Williams' car helped detectives better understand how the pursuit unfolded. Evidence from the crash scene also helped investigators establish the sequence of events that ultimately led to Chuckie Brooks' death. As investigators gathered evidence, prosecutors began reviewing what criminal charges would be appropriate. Authorities announced that Thomas Lemons was being charged with second-degree murder in connection with the death of Imunique Williams. He was also charged with manslaughter for the death of Chuckie Brooks, whose fatal injuries resulted from the crash investigators say occurred during the pursuit. In addition, prosecutors filed 3 counts of attempted second-degree murder for the surviving victims who were allegedly shot during the incident, along with a charge of simple criminal damage to property. His bond was set at approximately $1.1 million. Following his arrest, investigators say Lemons exercised his constitutional right to remain silent. That decision meant detectives were unable to obtain a statement explaining his version of events or what allegedly motivated the violence. And that's where one of the biggest mysteries in this case remains. Why? Why did investigators say he allegedly shoot his own mother? Why chase Imunique Williams? Why continue firing after the crash? So far, authorities have not publicly answered those questions. No official motive has been announced. Police have also not confirmed the exact nature of the relationship between Thomas Lemons and Imunique Williams beyond describing her as a female acquaintance. That uncertainty has led to countless rumors online. Some people have suggested one theory. Others have suggested something completely different. But at this stage, those remain only theories. Without evidence released by investigators or testimony presented in court, it's impossible to know exactly what happened inside that residence before the violence erupted. The deaths of Imunique Williams and Chuckie Brooks left two families grieving in completely different ways. Imunique's loved ones lost a young woman whose future was only beginning. Chuckie Brooks' family lost a man who, according to investigators, had absolutely no connection to the dispute. His death serves as a heartbreaking reminder that acts of violence often affect people who never chose to be part of the conflict. The case also deeply affected the Shreveport community. Residents expressed shock that a domestic-related incident could escalate into a public shooting involving moving vehicles and innocent bystanders. Many also expressed sympathy for the first responders who arrived to find multiple victims, frightened witnesses, and a chaotic scene that required immediate action. As of now, the criminal case against Thomas Lemons is still moving through the legal system. No trial has taken place, and because of that, the allegations against him have not yet been proven in court. As the legal process continues, investigators may release additional evidence, witness testimony, or other information that could answer many of the questions that remain today. Until then, this case stands as a painful reminder of how quickly violence can spread beyond its original target, changing countless lives in only a few minutes. Before we end today's video, I want to leave you with a few questions. What do you think happened inside that home before the shooting began? Do you believe investigators will eventually uncover a clear motive, or do you think some questions may never be answered? And perhaps the hardest question of all, how many innocent lives could have been saved if this violence had been prevented before it ever reached the streets? I'd really like to hear your thoughts, so share your opinion respectfully in the comments below. If you found this case informative and want more fact-based true crime stories that examine every detail, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Case Watch, and click the bell icon so you never miss another investigation. Thank you for watching, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next case.